Hi, a quick message from me, Caroline, host of Bump to Business Owner. This episode is part of a very special six-part collaboration with Lucy Wheeler, mum and founder of Lucy Legal. If you're running a business, don't trust AI and Google to cover your legalities. Lucy Legal was created to make your life easier. Check out Lucy Legal for real legal guidance, templates, and support. Go to the link in the show notes of this episode. Now on with the show. Hello and welcome to today's episode of Bump to Business Owner. I am a host, Caroline Marshall, and today I'm back again with Lucy Legal, our partnership of the season. And today we are talking all things AI. And I know this is going to be a popular episode because one of our most listened to episodes with Lauren, Women of Web3, who talked so much about AI. I don't think we've spoken about it enough. I did run up a few polls on my Instagram yesterday, which was great because also I realized I didn't have the options of the people who are like not using it for environmental reasons, not using it because I am reluctant to feed the beasts and contribute to the dangers of our planet, which I love those answers. And I reassured the people who messaged me they were valid answers. I just hadn't thought of them in this particular poll because I was probably coming from a more optimistic air. There was some people who were just like, yes, use it daily. And then they also messaged me with their few thoughts of how though, which is interesting. Everyone's very keen for it not to remove creativity. But so many were like, I'm using it, but still have so much more to learn. And I personally think, yes, we all have a lot more to learn, but I do think this might be a little bit of a female attitude. I think if I'd done that same poll amongst men, that would have been a lot less on the learning side. Me and Lucy, before we pressed record, we're just having a little chat about how we're personally using it, how the team are using it. I know, having worked behind all these many business, that we're all at similar level with AI. What were your takes on that when I told you that statistic? I think it was 80% had a lot more to learn.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating and I don't think it's surprising. I think that it feels like a very stereotypical response, and it feels very close to the kind of responses you would get if you were asking people about investing and things as well. Do you know, like things that typically women want to be involved in investing, they want to be involved in AI and how to use it, but they don't want to do it wrong. We don't want to invest in an incorrect way. We don't want to be seen to be cheating, I think, as well. We're sold AI as the shortcut and the easy way and the quicker way. And I think that you have hit the nail on the head when you're saying about the things that you didn't put in your poll. People are so concerned about perfection and using it the proper way and using it in a way that's going to be socially accepted as well, because we're still not really sure in what ways it is socially accepted now. Are you cheating? Are you damaging the environment? And it feels like women, again, shoulder the burden of having to use AI perfectly and show up perfectly. And we now need to factor in the geopolitical issues with it. The fact that you don't want to be giving your money to the wrong company. Oh, you use AI, but don't use it with that company. And what about the environment? You use it, but don't use it too much. And it feels like...
Oh, and women are shouldering this. So I'm not seeing these male convos going on when someone asks them.
It feels like that's just such a stereotypical thing that with anything with women, like just don't be too much, just don't do it too well, but also don't get left behind.
Don't get left behind, how dare you? But don't be like showing off by how much you're doing and making us feel bad.
Yeah, and don't be too, and make sure that if you do use AI, that you don't use it so successfully that you're more successful than the people, and then you get cancelled and the people don't like you because you don't want to be too unrelatable. That is how I feel about AI, in the sense that I feel we should embrace it. And I think that it's definitely a tool that can help. And I think it's just up to each person how they want to use it and how it can fit into their life. There's definitely some considerations that we need to have as business owners in terms of what you're legally allowed to do or legally can do, and make sure you don't set yourself up for failure in terms of IP and those things. And we'll come on to that later, I know, in the discussion. I think that anything that can make life easier as a tool in motherhood has got to be something that you want to look at and investigate and explore, whether that's just something helping you with simple reminders, putting stuff into your calendar, or if it's something that does something more. And I was chatting to somebody actually over the weekend about AI and how it could be used and whether it will take our jobs and that kind of thing. And I was saying, I don't think it won't take everyone's jobs, it will take some people's jobs, but what we want it to do is make our job easier and quicker so that we can spend time doing the things that we love. We don't want it to do the jobs that we like doing. For example, look after our children. I want it to do things like create a table from information, or to provide me with notes so I don't have to scroll through and be like, what did they say? What was that point that we were talking about? I want my job to be quicker and to have time-saving tasks so that I can finish work at 2 o'clock on the school holidays and spend time with my children in the afternoon. That's how I want to be using it.
Exactly that. And, I was going to lift the lid on like how we're both using it, but I think that fits nicely in like a number one way. I have an AI guru I follow. She's called Fiona Carve. Her focus is on EAs, PAs, and productivity. So she's nailed it with also her niche in AI, because I think we're far too blanket about AI as well. Because there's AI for creativity, like different roles have different use cases for AI. And taking a use case from my role, mine is very much business development, sales, and recruitment as well. But I've been less and less on the admin for that. But I really focus on the sales piece. And I went to look the other day randomly. I was just looking for an old proposal. I think a client had reached out. I'd first sent them a proposal in 2022, 2023, so pre this AI boom. And I was like, oh my God, that's like, they're not hugely different. The format is still the same. But I was like, wow, that's how little I had. Like, I don't have a huge amount now either, but I'm just more thorough. And that's because I have a note taker on my calls. By the way, I do ask everyone if they're happy with my note taker on the calls. And then it goes into AI. I've trained it how I like my proposals to look. And then it pulls it all together super quickly. And then the human in me obviously knows the stuff that I like to edit, like to tweak, make sure it's okay. There's always stuff that I need to change. It's never spits it out and sends, because that's where a human is needed. But that is a job. She always says, Fiona at Carve, like, what job would you not want to do on an aeroplane where you've got no Wi-Fi? And for me, I'm like, sales proposal, I would never do it because I've not got the Wi-Fi, and I just don't want to be spending all that time writing a proposal, because they're just not as good. And that's a great use case for it and how you can help your role. But where the human's still needed, I still got to show up, talk to someone, make the sale, spend more time with that person to then get the details quicker with the help of AI.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's why we need to see AI as a complementary tool to assist us, not to replace our job and not to do the job for you. And as you say, you're not actually giving that task away into something else. You're using it to assist you, and then for it to just quicken the process of pulling together the proposal from a conversation you've had. So it's taking those notes. I think that we hear too many people saying things like, oh, I was just making my lunch and I had 7 AI agents working for me in the background. Or over the last month, I've made £42,000 from an AI agent working in the background. I'd love to be proven wrong here, but I don't know what more an AI agent could be doing in our business that people would want it to do. And when I say people, I mean our clients. So for us, when people come to us and they ask us a question in our mailbox, they're asking us things like, what legal protection do I need? Well, spoiler alert, you can ask ChatGPT that question. Most of the time, people will have asked that question, and I know that, and they know that, and they come and they say, I've looked into this, which means they've used an AI tool to ask the question, but it's not giving them the bespoke answer that they need, or it's possibly lifted it from one of our blogs, because really interestingly, we ask people where they found us, and a lot of the time they're saying an AI tool, for example, ChatGPT, and I'm like, okay, that's really interesting and that's good to know. So anybody who's running a business and thinking, should I blog? Should I do these things? Should I still continue to do long form video with captions? All of those things, definitely do that. Do guest blogging, because that's where it's pulling the answers through from. But people want my expertise. They want to know that I've considered their position, the nuance of how they're going to serve and support clients. Perhaps they're doing something new that is different that people haven't done before, and therefore they don't think that an AI tool is going to be able to give them the accurate answer. So yes, okay, we do have templated versions that we have anyway, but they're things that we've created, not that it's come from AI, that for those kind of responses. So something like that, it's always going to be us that do the response. It just couldn't be an AI tool, because it wouldn't give the right answer.
No, and I think an answer to that is like, what could it? I often see it as AI tools are there to make your job easier, but not be customer facing. So, for example, we just moved our contracts from Dropbox Sign to, which is actually aligned with the whole contract piece, to Google Sign, because we're on Google, we're already using it. I was like, that's a cost we can get rid of. And then I realized Dropbox Sign, what was helpful, I had a folder where I could just check the status. If if one of the team wasn't around, I could just see instantly if someone had signed or not. And I was like, oh, I don't have this anymore just in my inbox, can we do this? And one of the teams was like, yeah, we can use Google Scribe to set up that automation. So it's all about which the client won't see, but it's all about making it easier for me not to ask a person for something, and on a Friday night when no one's around, I can be like, oh, I can easily check it in my inbox because I haven't received the notification. And these are the little tweaks that is making things easier. And they've been around for ages. I mean, Zapier's been around for ages. So
But then do people feel easier, I think, are more comfortable using something when we call it an automation? So if we say, oh, I use automations within the business, that feels like it's quick, it's slick, it's a good thing to have. But if we're saying, oh, that's AI, is that like, oh, hang on a second, I don't want to do it? Because automations are powered by AI. And that's the thing, as you say, that a lot of this has been happening for a long time. A lot of the prompts and things that happen within software platforms that we use, like both of us use platforms day to day to run our team, they have been enhanced using AI. So we're going to continue using them and use the developments of the ideas, or even the way it's saying, like, we're watching you how you're using this. What are you doing? That's the really long, convoluted way of getting to where you want to be using our program. Why don't you do it this way? And of course we want that prompt. And as you say, it's internal. It's just making it slicker for me to do something within my team. Therefore, it gives me time back rather than actually changing anything that I'm delivering to a client. I think it's really exciting to use it then. So we use it within software that we use.
You use ClickUp a lot, and we use Notion a lot. So both of them have constantly bringing in agents within there, but you're still building how you use it, like the process. So everything starts with a process, everyone. I'm going to be really unsexy here. You never just have an agent who's like, do, 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 do. And I'm like, if you haven't written a process, that doesn't happen. Does it?
And also, I think what's fascinating is, remember that for me, using ClickUp, that's not part of my business, in the sense that's not what I sell, it's not what I do. I think if I was using AI for what I actually deliver, I'd feel very different about it. So we use it first to make things quicker for the team. I use it on meetings for notes and summary notes. Now, I find it fascinating because, as you would imagine, I'm the person that reads back the note in detail of what it says, not just the summary. So I will read back notes that have been taken from the team meetings and also from meetings where I've supported clients. I can see straight away that it's been recorded inaccurately, or the actual nuance of what I was trying to say has been lost, sometimes only in the summary. So the summary point might be incorrect, but then the detail, when you go back to the note, it is correct. I'm like, that's interesting that it's summarized it like that, because it's got the real detail here of what exactly the words I said, but that isn't what it's summarized. And I think that sometimes when it is like, you could do this, or you could do that, or you could do, like for legal things where there's a number of options, it then might say, Lucy recommended this. And I think, no, it didn't. That was definitely not the recommendation I gave. So I think that's fascinating that it's maybe because I spent more time on it, or something I said made it suggest that was my recommendation, or sometimes it will say things like, Lucy's strong preference was that. I'm like, that wasn't my strong preference. I literally am neutral. I don't mind often, especially when it's something in the team. I don't know what we're doing often in terms of, like, as you say, processes and systems. I've got people in the team who are brilliant at that. So I don't have a preference. They tell me what we're doing and I'm like, great, that sounds like a brilliant idea, well done. But it is helpful for me to see the summaries. Say if I've had a number of people on a call with me and I've said, like, this is what you need to do next, it's really helpful to me to have that right at the top, all summarized, and be like, yeah, okay, oh, that's what they were talking about. Yeah, that was the nuance of that. And me then writing an email back to them after the session saying, this is the key things that you're meant to be working on. They're there for me, even if I've perhaps stepped away because somebody else has asked for a call, or their nursery have called and I have to go and pick up a child, and it's been like an hour or so before I've actually come back to it, and where I haven't had to write notes in the session. So the session has been quicker itself. I haven't had to then copy up my notes, haven't had to lose my notes and be like, what did I write? All of that makes it so much more efficient. So that, I think, is a big pro for note taking. And I also use it for business strategy. I often will say to it, I want to take this offer to make it a £50,000 revenue stream in the next 6 months. What would I need to do? Or I want this offer to sell £1 million worth of revenue by the end of the year. How would we develop it from what we're doing now? Create a marketing plan, or that kind of thing. I don't then use that marketing plan and put it in, but I take any ideas it might have from it, or it might suggest something, or it might say, stack revenue in this way, or do it like this, or it just gives me inspiration, I think. I don't think I've ever followed it to the letter, because anyone that uses AI tools will know that it's like, wow, great idea. Don't stop at £1,000,000. You could do two. And you're like,
Oh my gosh, especially Gemini, it really runs before it can walk, and I'm constantly telling it off to like hold back.
Yeah, and I think, and then sometimes, yeah, and exactly, and sometimes I look at it and go, "There's absolutely no way that could work." And I think it's fascinating. I worry a little bit as to whether, like, obviously, we've both been in business a while, and we can see that there's massive holes in like what it's suggesting straight away. Because I'll go, "What about this?" or "What about the fact that this is the audience size and you're suggesting we're going to make 100 sales in 24 hours? It's not going to happen." And then it goes, "Oh yeah, great," and it revises it down. But I think that it could be a bit disheartening potentially if you were using it as a tool and it was suggesting these things and then it didn't work.
That is such a good case in point. And I think you're someone, definitely Lucy, you know what you want, you know your ideas, and you know what decisions you want to make. And if you don't, you will get there yourself. I worry that people with AI are too much like going to outsource their decisions, because I have heard someone do that recently. Someone I had a coffee with was like, "Oh, I was following this after I got totally consumed by ChatGPT telling me I should be doing this." And I'm like, you should never do that, because there are lots of things, if I said different ways, it could tell me to go all in on the podcast when I know that is not revenue generating compared to upsource in the same way at all, and that would be a terrible idea.
And because you say things like, "I'm really passionate about this idea," you probably say, "I am really passionate about the podcast. I want to reach this," and you probably give it the brief of it being like, "Oh my gosh, she's obsessed with this. Caroline really wants this podcast to be successful." True, but you probably didn't give it the information it needed to say, "I need to put food on the table, I need to bring in
I've
revenue.
got mortgage.
So, yeah, I've got a mortgage to pay," because you just wouldn't think to give it that information. So I think it's just as being, I don't want to say clever with it, but the prompts that you use, they're not something that you can even buy or download, because I know that lots of people sell those now. I'll grab my prompts. They're prompts that you have to just learn, and you learn that by just playing with the tool. And I think that's what's really interesting about it. It doesn't even have to be in a business sense. You could just ask it to give you recommendations about things for personal life, or speed things up in your personal life in terms of, "I'm looking for a restaurant here, it needs to have this, this and this." And I think that's why it is important to make sure our websites are up to date, and our SEO through blogging is really, really on point as well, because it is going to pull in that when it's asking for recommendations. We've used it in a personal capacity before, and I've gone away with my friends from uni, and everybody had suggested a few things, and I said, like, "We're staying in this area, these are the suggestions we've had, create us an itinerary which will pull in, we are," and then like describe us as girls, like what we want to do. We want to be near wine bars, we want to not have to, we want to walk with sightseeing, we want to have some shopping. Do you know, like, you can put in your preferences, and that's better than any sort of, you can't do a click box, and it's not like you're booking a holiday and you can be like, "Yes, I want a room with a view," or that kind of thing. You're saying things like, "I want to have a bit of culture but shops," but also that, you know, like, you can tell it exactly what you want, and it will create the itinerary for you.
Exactly. And I will caveat, it totally helped me choose my orthopedic doctor the other day, but it was clearly based on location, where it just helped me nudge along a decision of like, it, you know, wasn't a big deal, and that's actually, it helped me make that decision. But I know when to use it in that capacity versus going into a new business space or moving house. I don't know, the bigger life decisions that people might do that with. And we have touched on it briefly, because I think I've just had a flashback when you talked about AI agents, and I built my business with this, and this. That was this real noise. Did you feel it? Was it earlier this year? And there was these little cartoon characters this business was clearly trying to push down as of like, this is your AI team and you can build this business. And I really want to raise awareness of this, because they're clearly paying a lot of people to advertise and plug these little AI agents. And it really can make you feel like a failure if you're like, "I'm not utilizing this, I'm not growing, and everyone else is going to make," like, I think there are even stories coming around of 16-year-olds being millionaires through using AI, just making millennials feel bad about themselves again. Have you ever experienced that, or ever felt that little bit of FOMO around this?
Yeah, I definitely do. I think FOMO is that thing. It literally is that you don't want to miss out or be left behind. And I think that I often think this as well about working for ourselves. Now I'm thinking, "Oh, what would they be doing in practice now? How would they be using AI?" And then I think about my profession, and the legal profession is not that forward thinking. And actually, I know it's got so much red tape around.
You'll be a lot faster than they are.
things that we are talking about, or we will talk about in this, about privacy and IP and those kind of things. But also, I think that we just need to remember that, yes, there are people who are using AI, but just be careful all the time with who you're listening to, in the sense that, are they teaching you how to use AI? But when I hear people, they say things like, "I've got my AI team doing this whilst I play with my child in the morning," oh, but then it's like, and then now you can buy my course as to how you can set up AI agents yourself in your business. You might not need AI agents. And that's what I think is really important, is you probably aren't missing out. And it's important that we do look into it and you do something in terms of like, just use AI a little bit. Just ask it to find you an orthopedic surgeon. You probably have used AI just by using Google, because normally now when you use that, the first is an AI generated response, isn't it? And it summarizes things.
If you've got Google as well, Gemini's got so much better. So just use that because it's already embedded as well. If you're paying for the business level, which everyone should be if they're running a business. Disclaimer there.
Well, we keep looking at it, and we were saying like being honest, how much longevity have the legal templates got? Do we think that like people will just stop buying them? That has been a real fear for me. Like, I run a legal templates business. Will people even still buy them? The answer is yes. People have not stopped buying them. People still buy them. People still trust them. And you think about it, all the law firms in the world have not just closed down. And even if they say things like this AI tool has been lawyer backed or lawyer approved, asking it questions from a legal perspective. And I'll say things like, sometimes I can't remember the name of a trademark form that I want to use. Like, it can be like something really niche. It's not just like an extension. It might be something like just a form I don't use regularly. So I'm like, oh, what's the name of that form? And they all start TM something. So I'm like, oh, which one is it? And I will ask an AI tool, and I've tried different ones, and I'll say, I want to do this. Which form do I need? And I've even previously opened it up and been like, oh yeah, that's the one. Started filling it in, was like, wait a second, scroll down, I was like, this is not the right form. And I was like, I know this is not the right form, because I know you have to fill in the box and it looks like this. I was like, that's useless. Let me just scroll through, and I go through the actual contents list, because there's loads of numbers. It's TM and then all the different numbers. I'm like, oh, it's that one. And I found it myself. Or I've asked it a legal question and it gives me the answer, but then it's not correct, or it's missing context massively. And I think that's the thing about all of our legal documents. They bring in not just my 6-7 years of working solely for entrepreneurs, but they bring in all of the problems that all of my clients have had. And like, we've got over 100 people in our legal membership now. All of them have problems from time to time. They have multiple problems. Everything they share with me, I feed back into the contracts, and they get updated, and they're all of those points are included within to support people within their templates, which there's no way an AI tool could get. And I think that someone's probably listening thinking, she's very naive to think that someone hasn't just put her templates into ChatGPT or something. Not naive. I know that people have done that. I even know because people have told us this, and they said, oh, it's actually suggested these things. What do you think? And I was like, oh, brilliant, because you've given it a description. You've said, here's the template, populate it for me. And it suggested amendments. I'm like, if you change that wording, you lose this element of protection that we're trying to get, and this is how it's protecting you. And I think that that's the thing about AI, is it's only as good as the person inputting the instructions, and those prompts are really important. And I guess that's the part where people go, oh, well, I can't use it because it's not perfect. But what I'm trying to say is use it for things that maybe don't matter too much, like your shopping list, which bar to go to when you're in Lisbon, for example, with your friends. That kind of thing doesn't matter so much, but then it may then give you the confidence to just use it in the parts to make your life easier.
And that's when that comes to the internal things you can support with versus the external. So the external stays perfect and human, or human but with imperfections, which people forgive, versus like something coming crashing down in the background.
How do you use it the most efficiently in your business now?
How we're using it most efficiently is by taking our workflows that have already existed and identifying places. The truth is, like you said with yourself, Lucy, there's so many workflows I'm not involved with. And that's why I could easily talk about the sales one, because that is all me and I do all that. But recruitment, it now supports us. We do trial task. And by the way, full disclaimer, we are not putting in the trial task and telling it to grade us, but it is speeding up the emails we can and the response time that we can give people, and helping us analyze the trial task for our teams. And that's where it's like the difference is I'm not on board with using AI to recruit, and not like it all starts with the person, and then it helps us with identify the trial task, what to do, and help us get it out there. So it's all about those pieces. Again, in Notion, starting to bring in agents where, say, for example, when we get a new client, an email pings to my content writer to add them to MailChimp. Realistically, we could probably ping them forward, but because she's currently on the MailChimp, we haven't got to that automation. But it's taking it piece by piece and know you're going in the right direction with what you're building, because we're building an agency. that is scaling, but we're also looking to last. And so we're not interested in the quick fixes. We're interested in fixes that actually help our processes and help us grow. And sometimes that's taking time to be like, oh, let's try this. Well, that's not working. That didn't work out very well. Can we change this prompt? Can we change this automation? And going from there. And so we are in Notion right now, and there's a lot we're using in there. We've started, exploring things like I mentioned, Google Scribe. So we are doing a lot of it for that. And a good one that we should probably bring back is Riverside. So, Riverside itself, talking about what an AI is within tools, is that AI, I have an editor, she edits these podcasts, but also AI in Riverside helps pick up things like, I just went on a complete rogue chant. It will probably take that out already because it knows it's not part of it, and it takes away the ums and the ahs, the coughs, things like that. And that's where AI is helping with tech as well. So with the team, I do annual reviews, and I had fed it a standard template I wanted to do, which was like, here's what we discussed, here's the feedback, here's all of that. Oh my goodness, the speed I could get back to everyone with their summaries, because I wanted them all to be great and worthwhile and individual, but they did follow a standard format, and Gemini helped me with that, and it helps me review Clockify, the time trackers. So I've built little, they're not, these aren't agents because they're not doing it automatically, which they will do at some point, but I'm still testing. And I just want to make this clear because I'm growing a business. I'm testing, how can this work as a tool? And then how can I potentially automate that tool at some point? And I think it's making it clear there's a whole process to this, and it's not an easy, I just got my finance tech person to do everything and they're sending my invoice each month, because realistically that's not happening. But we're working on that as being the next phase of where we can improve and quicken up things. So some insights there on how we're using it.
I think it's fascinating though, because a lot of the things when you were saying things like, I know you weren't saying zaps, but there were elements where we use zaps within the business, and I just see those as automations. I don't even think of them as AI anymore, and that's how quickly things have happened. And it's an AI automation and something that's happening automatically within the business. And we use those loads of different times. So there are times when I don't use them as well. So there's things that I don't do because I want them to be looked at manually. So for example, when things go into my calendar, I manually put things into my own calendar. So because I have a couple of different businesses and everything has to be very separate, they therefore can't speak to one another. And therefore I run a master calendar myself. But I want to have that understanding in my head of the day that I have created for myself of, oh my goodness, next Wednesday looks awful. It's very back to back, or hold on a second, this needs to happen, or even just know it, like just seeing all the time when I go into my calendar of, okay, that's when I need to be in early because the children are doing a presentation at school, or that's the day when they've got to have their socks on, or yes, I can have that meeting, do and they have to wear
similar calendar
socks
vibes.
All of those things. Life is happening like in a layered way where everything interlinks, and sometimes people might be able to book a call with me months in advance, but when I'm putting it manually into my calendar, I can see and I'm like, actually, I want to do school drop off that day because it's moving up day or whatever it is. So actually, whilst they've booked miles in advance, we should have changed the calendar date. And just knowing that and seeing what's going into my human calendar is really important for me. So whilst there are automations that work, I think just having that processing, even when we have new people join our membership, we don't let it populate all of the fields that it could, because we want that human to look in and go, okay, so they're on this membership, they've filled this in, okay, and not just be a cog in a wheel that they've almost been with us for a month and nobody's personally emailed them. We want to find out who they are, make sure I'm following them on Instagram, make sure I've actually done some personal outreach, all of those kind of things. I want the human elements to be there, and that's
and definitely two more things to add on that, because I am so aligned with you on the calendar. I've never had Calendly. It doesn't work with my calendar because I also block my time. So if I'm not in a meeting, I time block. That's how I work, so things don't get lost. And so when people have said, what's your Calendly link? I'm like, I don't know, I'll give you some dates the old fashioned way. I do use VimCal now, so I can give bespoke slots, and that is mainly for sales. When I really want to get someone in, I'm like, yes, I want to get you in, so I will make the time for this. But I'm still in control of my slots, and I love that. That has AI capabilities, but again, not hugely for me. I'm using it for the slots. basis. And another one is one of my team, he's with another agency as well, and he was like, we use Slack as a team. He's like, you can tell you don't use AI. He's like on the Slack team for another agency he's with, and it's one of my friends' agencies, I'm sure. He was like, that it's like AI talking to me, I'm sure. He's like, I just don't feel the human. And I'm like, that is a perfect case study of where, you know, they've joined UpSource to be part of a little community.
This is what's fascinating now. So I had a first issue for a client, which I've never had before. A client got in touch with me and said they were having difficulties with their client. Could I help? Because they needed to terminate the contract. I kind of said, oh, it was red flags before, but I really wanted to work with them. I have worked with them before, but I knew I shouldn't have taken them on kind of client. So I said, yeah, of course I can help. Chatted her through it and was like, this is what you need to say. Within a couple of messages, she came back and she said to me, Lucy, you're going to think this is really weird, but I'm certain that I'm talking to AI now, and that the messages that are coming back, because they were WhatsApping each other, they're coming back in written message, which we didn't used to do, and it's AI.
So in WhatsApp?
Yeah, in WhatsApp. So basically she got messages back that had been, she'd written a message, and then obviously they put that response back into an AI tool and then given it back to her. And then she's like, I know the words that this client uses, as she'd worked with her before for a number of years. The relationship was obviously clearly breaking down. So sometimes people do become a little bit more formal when you're speaking to somebody, especially it's a bit of a contractual setting. But she's like, this is awful. And it was then going round and round and saying like things and bringing in things from the coaching and saying that this is how you'd helped. And it just, she's like, there's no way it's not using this, and I'm not talking to like an AI bot now. And she's like, how do I make it stop? And then she's like said to you're speaking in a really unusual way. And she said to me afterwards, she said, I want it writing into my contracts now that whenever a client communicates with me, it must be them, and they must not write responses using AI. And I said, I don't know if people will even sign that anymore, because people do rely on AI, especially when they're trying to write something like legal back. And that's the thing, isn't it? You're almost fighting now, or we definitely are as lawyers, we're fighting against AI bots that are like writing responses back, which are like, this is nonsense, it doesn't even make any sense, it's not legally sound, and it's definitely just bringing in facts which are totally irrelevant and putting the weight in the wrong places. But yeah, she was really upset about that. And as you say, you can tell when you're talking to an AI bot, can't you?
I would not want to ever be seen in a way that's not me, because I think at least if someone doesn't like my response, that's me. But then to not like my response and it's not me makes me feel really, really uncomfortable. It reminds me, actually, it was early last year, it was around ChatGPT was starting to really become more of a thing. I had a potential client come through, and I was like, his emails doesn't seem like he's the client for me, but you know, I'll speak to him. Got on a call, loved him, great guy. It turned out, and then he openly admitted, he's like, yeah, I've been trying to use ChatGPT and it's not the same. And you literally just sent me an email written by ChatGPT, and that's why I couldn't. It was something about it. I was like, not sure this is the client for me, but hop on a call. And then got on the call and I was like, yeah, you seem great.
And that's where it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think like it depends where you come from in the corporate background as well. Because I know we both come from corporate backgrounds where potentially we either shadow wrote or had people writing for us. So where I was in my career is I wrote all of the reports and everything for partners. Like they did look over it, of course they did, they supervised it, they approved it, but I wrote it in their name. It was my writing, my way of writing. Their excellence was because of me. Do you know, like you get yourself a good junior like I was at the start, and then you become an incredible partner and you write that. But I was always really cautious when people were writing things for me that I had definitely reviewed and approved it and had signed it off. I would never let anything go out with my name on that I hadn't read end to end myself. Or I would just say to people, just sign it in your own name. I was like, if it's a letter which doesn't need to be in my name, just sign it in your own name. That's not giving any legal advice for the juniors. And I think it's a similar sort of thing. Like I just wouldn't trust AI, especially because I've seen it and I've read through notes and things where I'm like, that's not what I said. Or if that was what I said, they've emphasized that not in a way that really is true to the facts of what I mean. So I think it is a case of, isn't it, about how I just wouldn't want ChatGPT doing, or any AI tools, just doing things in the background of the business, let alone whether it's legally allowed to be doing half of these things too.
And let's end on that note. So what should we be considering? And when you say legally allowed, what do you mean? Because I'm still taking it with a pinch of salt. These people are saying, oh, this agent's running in the background. It might be a specific workflow that's not client facing. But what we should all be careful of in this new wave of AI we're seeing this year.
So there are two legal issues you need to be thinking about when you're using AI in your business. The first one is privacy and data protection, and the second one is the use of IP. And we've touched on both of them today in this conversation. But in terms of privacy and data protection, you have to have explicit consent to do a number of things when you are using an AI tool. So you must be, essentially the first thing is you must be telling your clients what you are doing. So if you are having a platform use and process your data or information about you or sort of about your clients, they need to be told about it. They need to know that another platform has got access to their data. So if you haven't already been saying, like, say for example, you've already told them, yeah, we use ClickUp, we use Kajabi, whatever it is, they know that those tools are already using their data. But where you have things where client data is being processed, so let's say for example, people are taking call notes or summaries and information and putting them into a different tool, that's not permitted. They don't want, so say for example, you've had a call and you've got the note and you then put it into AI and say, can you suggest what I should do next with this client? Like, what's the next step with this client? If it's got any client identifiable information in it, that's probably a breach of GDPR. So you can't, so you need to make sure
Very
that any
important there then.
Yeah, that's going in. And I know that people aren't doing that because I know every time I say it to people, they go, but you're allowed to put this in. I'm like, no, that's exactly what you can't put in. They're like, but what about this? I'm like, no, that's exactly the detail of information you should not be putting into an AI tool. And I go, okay. So I know that people are doing it. And I think that's what's really concerning for me, is that I guess we have to be really cautious as to putting it in ourselves, but also knowing that whoever we're working with, we might well be using AI in a way that doesn't comply with the way that we feel our data should be used. So as a business owner, you need to make sure that you've got a clear AI policy as to how you use AI. And it may be that you use it in the ways that we've suggested for creating ideas, suggestions on next steps, for smoothing the process internally. And you may put as your AI policy, you will never get an AI generated email from us that hasn't been, you might say, written by a human or checked by a human. Like, you can decide what it is, but people want to know that they are in good hands, don't they, safe hands, and that they are being listened to, and their concerns aren't just going through an automation of responses, and they're actually having a conversation with a human. And in conversations with a human, you have to tell people when they are talking to an AI bot. So if, for example, you were having automations go off on your mailbox and it was going forward as an email conversation, you have to tell people that that's disclosable. In the same way, it's disclosable in ManyChat. You know, if you use it ManyChat,
That's an Instagram chat. Well, mainly people are using it on Instagram, aren't they, to respond to people. If so that someone says, put ask in the comments, it's probably a ManyChat automation, isn't it? Just to explain it for the audience.
Well, that's important. It's so fascinating that you've just done that, because when I've said that on some trainings, people go, yeah, everyone knows what ManyChat is. And I'm like, no, they don't. Everyone
no, they
doesn't
don't
know what that is. And so therefore, it's obvious if you know, but if you don't, then you think that when someone's put ask, that I have literally sat there and typed a response, and therefore I think I'm talking to you. So if Caroline's put ask on her thing, and then I'm having a conversation back and forth with a bot and I don't know, and then I might speak to Caroline and say, thanks for what you shared. And Caroline's like, what do you mean? Or like, doesn't know anything about it. And that's the difficulty then, is you could have a conversation with somebody and then meet the actual person and realise you weren't having a conversation with them, it was with a bot. It is a legal requirement that you are transparent when you are using AI tools or AI agents. And it hopefully goes up without saying that you are responsible for them. So if you have an AI agent running in your business, it's like another team member. Anything that happens, you're responsible for them. So
I was going to say, people will be doing that with Claude now, just lifting notes and putting them somewhere in it through another AI or into something else and not touching it. But it is their responsibility. And I think that's something to be really clear on.
Yeah, and I think this is where it becomes even more interesting in terms of where we sit with IP. So one of the foundational principles of IP is copyright. If you create something, you are the owner. Yeah, that's one of the legal principles. We know if I'm to create a slide deck, I've done it myself, I own it. But if I have asked an AI tool to create this slide deck for me, I've co-created it then. So I don't own all the IP in it. the AI tool owns part of the IP. But where did the AI tool get those ideas from or the information from? It's taken it from someone else or somewhere else, and maybe it's just taken it from design coding or whatever, and it's just lifted it from my own notes. Like Caroline gave an example earlier of it takes notes and will summarize it in a table. Okay, that's just something it's done internally within a program. Okay, that's fine. But what if person one has put the notes that they have taken from a client conversation into AI and generated a plan for something? The client two then asks the questioner the similar type of question, says, I've got a client who's got an issue like this, and it's going to pull from other sources, and it's going to pull from things that have come in beforehand, and it's going to take the notes from and ideas from client one or scenario one, pull that through and give them to you, and I'm going to start using them. Maybe if I'm the client two, and using them, saying, oh yeah, it's great, I've got all of these ideas, but those ideas weren't mine, they didn't come from me, they came from AI, it was co-created. And it's the same kind of situation when we're thinking about blogs or ideas like that, or we could say, I'm only using it for content creation. But if I'm asking it for ideas for Instagram posts, it's going to get those ideas from blog posts that are written by other people. So I think this is where it is also important to think about what role you have within a team, or who you work with, or who works within your team. Because whilst it might not matter to me, because I don't need to use AI, that I use it to help me in my life, but I don't use it on any client-facing tasks because I don't need to. But there are people in my team who might use it on client-facing things, or even the person who's doing the socials. If they get ideas for our socials through AI, it maybe will pull in a blog from another legal guru and advisor, and then share their information. They might come to me and say, Lucy, you've taken our idea. And I'd be like, well, we didn't. But they're like, yes, you did, because it's word for word what we had put in this blog post. And that's where we need to be really careful, because that would be IP infringement, because we'd have taken their idea.
And again, you've got the responsibility, and I think that's making that really clear. And that is a full circle moment. Interestingly, I had several people come back from my polls and things that they specifically weren't using it for content creation. And I think it comes back to that piece of authenticity. And I felt that was great, because we don't either. I am always very open. I've got lovely Steph on the team who helps me with my content, helps me repurposing, but we are quite like the other way with content. And it's just because I feel like I get enough in my day-to-day from the work and motherhood.
Yeah.
And I don't need ChatGPT or Gemini like telling me.
No, and you're exactly right. And look, your storytelling and what you do in your life and how you run your business, nobody's going to know those stories. It's got to be you. But what you can use an AI tool to do is say what's performing really well. If I was trying to do this, analytics, like what kind of thing? Oh, okay, carousels are performing well. Storytelling is performing well. Storytelling where you have a thread, and like it can give you the substance of what you need to do, or the bones of it, to give you the route through, as we say, to speed it up and to go, okay, yeah, that's a good idea. Or just tips, I think, is good, but without actually being
keeping in a word count or improving your grammar. Be very specific with things like that, because if you're like me and your grammar's rubbish,
I think it tells me to say not to be. Our posts perform a lot better when we're not too polished, but again, it might be just
I think mine are really bad starting point. You should speak to Steph on my team. If it's like a nighttime idea and you're like, what the hell are you saying?
Do you remember when it came in and everyone was like saying on dash and those things, and you could tell, and then the people who used Oxford Commas were just like, oh, that's so irritating, like I always have been using these forever. And now we actually knew how to use punctuation, and anybody else was like, it's good because we didn't know how to use it anyway.
Exactly. That's me and my husband in a nutshell. He's great and he loves an M dash, but he knows exactly how to punctuate things. But for me, I'm like, help. Oh, Lucy, this has been a great chat. I know it will be really popular because I just want to myth bust about how much people are really using it, how you should be using it. And it's also give you permission. It's okay to be using it, because while I'm really an advocate for being aware about the environmental impact, all of that. But if women do need to be using it and need to be represented in this area, and so we need to find a way to come up with that balance there. So thank you so much, Lucy. I will continue to follow you for my legal help on how to use it properly as well.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to that special episode brought to you in collaboration with Lucy Legal. Over 6 episodes, we'll be discussing big topics in motherhood and business, relationships, finances, maternity leave, and AI. If you're a business owner and want to make sure that your legal terms are correct, and most importantly, that you are covered, go to Lucy Legal for real legal guidance, templates, and support. Link in the show notes of this episode. Thank you.